Why it is going to cost India by siding China? What are the repercussions that we really need to look into, and how India can lose more than earn? A bitter trade war is looming over India because of the US tariffs, and there has been a reach out by China, which might give us a short-term relief, but at the same time, it is going to cost us far more than we can imagine, not just economically, but geopolitically as well. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and today we are going to understand the vulnerabilities that exist in getting too close with China. Because is it a reset that we are seeing in 2025, or is it just another trap that we have seen from China's end multiple times? So let us start with understanding the present situation that exists. So the rising tensions is something that we have seen from the last 2 months in terms of the tariff war that is looming between India and US, and this is getting more and more intense by the both of the countries, where direct threats have not been going out from India, but the stance is pretty clear that we are not going to compromise our financial sovereignty and we are going to protect our economy despite the tariffs that exist. In this very situation, last week itself, China had directly called US a bully, and China has also reached out to India, where we have resumed trade through Lipu Lake Pass. We are talking about de-escalation, and recently the statement came from our Prime Minister that India and China need to work together so that there can be stability in the world economic order. But all this might be able to bring only short-term relief specifically for us, because there are more cons than the prospects that we need to consider. So let us start by understanding the consequences that we are signing up for if we are getting in closer proximity with China. Now in this situation, सबसे पहली चीज़ जो है हमें समझनी है कि हमारे पास नुकसान होने के रीजंस बहुत ज़्यादा हैं एज कम्पेयर्ड जो फ़ायदे के हैं, और यहीं पे हम इनको समझने की कोशिश करेंगे. So let us start with the basic economic vulnerabilities that lie in front of us because of the approximation that we are expecting with China, the way we are working to expect with China. The first and the most important part is the trade that we are doing with China. So when we talk about the trade itself, we have historically been in trade deficit, and at present this trade deficit stands very close to $100 billion, and this is a questionable thing in terms of our economy, where the US tariffs might be shaving off millions of worth or billions worth of exports from the key sector, but bringing in China in the picture is going to hurt us more in terms of massive trade deficit that has existed in our country between the two countries for a while now. Another key important factor that we need to understand in the terms of trade that we do with China, चाइना के साथ जो हम ट्रेड करते हैं, सिर्फ यहाँ पे ट्रेड डेफिसिट जो है उसके बढ़ने की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, प्रॉब्लम ये भी है कि हम किस तरीके का ट्रेड करते हैं. इंडिया जो है वो अपने एंड से लो वैल्यू कमोडिटीज एक्सपोर्ट करती है, बट अगर हम चाइना की बात करें तो हाई वैल्यू गुड्स, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सम की इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोडक्ट्स व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स एटसेट्रा come from China. So in this situation, it is not just the volume of trade that is problematic, but at the same time we have to understand that the bandwidth we have in terms of value addition is comparatively lesser at our end, and if we go in that situation, we might be compromising on our strategic autonomy, financial autonomy as well. Apart from that, in terms of economic factors itself, the next thing that you need to understand, the import dependence that we have. It not only leads to the trade deficit, but we have to understand that 59 key product categories, just like I mentioned, critical minerals are there, electronics are there, pharmaceuticals, and if we are aligning with China, then we are at the risk of supply shocks constantly, because it will be difficult to diversify if the dependence increases here. We might not be able to reap the real benefits that we want in the long-term partnership, because whenever we have seen that there has been proximity between India and China, it has not lasted long. There have been the expansionist tendencies that have created problem for us, and in such a situation, if it arises, this supply disruption that will take place is going to hit our economy harder as compared to the US tariffs. Other than that, we have another economic factor in front of us, is the fact that we will be losing on the diversification part. So when we are talking about aligning with China, we will not be able to follow the China plus one opportunity. When we are talking about Western businesses which are looking to expand in India because they want to get out of China, if China and India come together, they will not want to come in India if we are too close in a proximity with China. That means we will lose foreign investment, and that foreign capital and investment will go to other places. So it is going to hurt us in terms of foreign investment as well. And the main factor, that industrial overcapacity of China is going to be a main threat. When we are talking about Chinese product, that one adjective that comes associated with it is the cheap Chinese import. This is going to undermine our small medium enterprises, and it will be a direct challenge to India's main flagship program, that is Make in India initiative, which is going to be the main key pillar if we want to stay strong in the tariff threat that are looming and that have been given, and the tariffs that are going to be imposed. Now, apart from the economic factors, we also have to take some geopolitical considerations where we are coming out on the losing end yet again if we are getting closely associated with China. So the strategic cost, when we are talking about, the first thing, when we have been globally aligning ourselves for the interest of, for the sovereignty of, for the free use of Indo-Pacific, we have been aligning with Quad. So the moment we are aligning with US, we are directly undermining Quad's purpose, and we are taking away the potential of Quad, because we are directly jumping from one party towards another party. Another thing, border tensions, which have been the main point of contention between India and China, they have not dissolved even after constant conversation about de-escalation. If you talk about Galwan Valley, we find 50 to 60k troops are still remaining, are still present in line of actual control to see that if there is any situation that arises which need to be handled. So that shows that there is fragility when we are still talking about border tensions. We might be saying that India and China need to work together, but we are very clear with the Chinese tendencies, Chinese counterpart, how they have operated in past, and this tension, this fragility is still present. Furthermore, we have also another factor to consider, our constant enemy which has decided to trouble us from the day we have got independence, which has decided to hurt us in places, bleed us with 1,000 cuts, is an all-time ally of China. I am talking about Pakistan here. The aid that is given to Pakistan, not just economically, in terms of defense, in terms of support at the international order, is something that will compromise and complicate India's security. Furthermore, China's own idea of string of pearls, the naval strategy that it uses, especially in the South China Sea, can be understood as encircling India if India also comes in that very order. And this all will directly hit us where we are trying to stand very strong, that is strategic autonomy. Because when we are talking about India-China equation, in this equation, one would have to stand taller than the other, and definitely China would want India to be a junior partner rather than an equivalent partner that will compromise the independent foreign policy that we have always talked about. Now, this is a moment of dilemma for India where these consequences need to be duly kept in mind. They cannot be erased off just because of the fact that China is reaching out, and also because of the fact that we also understand that India and China coming together can actually be a bloc that can bring in the global stability. But these costs need to remain in our mind, where US threat and the tariffs can lead us to a huge loss, but at the same time the long-term risk is with Chinese counterpart, where there will be trade deficit, where there will be industrial vulnerability and loss of investments itself. The geopolitical risk is not missed, and the strategic autonomy, that the alignment will totally undermine India's independent foreign policy agenda if we are closely aligning with them. Now, what do you think that India should do in this situation, and how should it strategically maintain the foreign policy independence that it has, and also ensure the financial sovereignty in this scenario. Now that was all from my side. Thank you so much.